Hi, this is Zach with Worn&Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Squale X Page&Cooper Vintage Masters. So this is a very cool watch and a limited edition that is a project collaboration, as the name indicates, between Squale and Page&Cooper. Page&Cooper is a watch retailer, an online watch retailer based out of London, who we've become friendly with in the last couple of years. The owner, Jonathan, is a really cool guy, and he's got great taste in watches, and he's a real big fan of Squale. And a couple years ago, I believe in 2012, he went to visit the Squale factory, and he was walking around looking through their archives and discovered with the current owner these really cool new old stock bezels that were created in the early 60s. And rather than wasting them or throwing away, they decided to do an extremely limited edition watch that kind of recreated the original Squale Master from that time, and kind of just bring life to these old bezels, really using them as an inspiration for this watch. It's very vintage focused and just make a very cool, unique product. So it comes in 3 colors, each limited to only 20 models. You have this silver dial with kind of a hazy blue-gray bezel. Bright blue dial. This one's unfortunately already sold out, with a light blue and then kind of a midnight blue bezel. It's a really beautiful combination. And then an all black model for kind of a more clean and sophisticated look. They come with some really cool accessories that we'll talk about in a bit, and they run 1,099 pounds, which is about 1,800 US dollars. So they're a bit pricey, but they're an extremely limited and very interesting watch. Because the inspiration for this watch came from these new old stock bezels, which were literally made in the 60s, the rest of the watch had to be built around that. So it's a much smaller watch than what you typically find for a modern diver, and it's actually a really wonderful, refreshing size to see. So it's a 39 millimeter watch, about 47.75 millimeters lug to lug, with a 20 millimeter lug width, and about 14 millimeters tall to the top of a domed acrylic crystal. Now they really wanted to stay true to the original design, so it has a very clean, classic shape, crown guard free design, and they went with the domed acrylic crystal. And I actually know that that was a difficult thing for them to make, because they had to make a very limited amount of them. You know, they only have 60 watches, and had to be able to get to 250 meters. They wanted to, make a watch that was still credible as a dive watch. So it's a 25 atmosphere, 250 meter watch. So these acrylic crystals end up having to be custom made, along with everything else, really, in Neuchâtel, Switzerland, which is really where the Squale factories, where the whole brand started. So it's really cool. It has a really nice story behind it. A lot of the people who actually originally worked on the Squale Master back in the 60s were still in the factories even, and they had a hand in this recreation of the model. So it just has a really nice story and kind of a history to the whole thing that just adds something. It's definitely a special piece when you own this. It's not just like an everyday watch, so having all that going on is really cool. In fact, the guy who's assembling these watches as a final assembly assembled the original ones, and this is his last project before he retires. So that's also really, really cool. But yeah, so looking at the case, like I said, very simple design. It has brushed finish on the top, polished on the sides, very clean, really nice sharp edges all around. It's a very kind of simple, elegant, classic look to it. The bezel is obviously the star of the show, and part of what really makes it so cool is that they don't make bezels that look like this anymore, and has some very cool qualities to it. So the way these bezels were made is essentially there's a surface on the bottom that's painted. So this one, you have this light blue, midnight blue. They call it azure blue on Page&Cooper's site. And it's painted those colors, and then you have applied steel markers on top of those, which are faceted and polished. Then the whole thing is filled in with epoxy, so you can't actually touch those markers. It feels like a flat surface, but what you get is this really cool 3-dimensional effect. It has a very kind of 60s vintage quality to it, a little bit of dress, and then because it's actually old, you have some nice kind of patina going on. So some of the colors fading in little spots. The tritium here has gotten a little yellow. So it has a built-in and very authentic patina. The bezel is also a friction bezel rather than a ratcheting bezel, so it turns both ways. It doesn't click. That was the way it was made back in the day, so there wasn't like a way for them to retrofit it, and they wanted to stay true to that design. And I think it works perfectly for this. I don't know if you're really, despite it has 258 meters, but I don't know if you need to use this for the most rigorous diving tasks. But what's really great about it is the colors. So, like I said, this one has these 2 blues, The silver one has this great light silver with, it's kind of like a medium gray that has a lot of cool tones in it. It's also really, really nice. I really like the way that looks against the silver there. And then the all black version, just very clean, very sharp. The steel applied steel markers really jump out in there. You can see on this one, I think they're all different. They're all unique. Like the little marker in there is a little funny, but I actually really like that. Like it just adds a lot of character to this watch. Though on a brand new watch, you might return it. Here, I think it's kind of part of what makes this watch very cool. Flipping it over, you have this special case back that they made, which has a really cool kind of wave pattern on it. Has a Page&Cooper logo, master, and then the serial of which of the 60 this is. So this is number 10 of 60. The dial of the Vintage Master has a very vintage look to it, as you'd expect. So there's the three different colors, starting with the black. You have this flat black surface. And then you have these loomed markers that are all squares. And what's kind of funny about this that you don't really see these days is that they're all positioned the same way, whereas I feel like typically the marker turns with the angle of the hour. And that just gives it kind of an interesting look to it. Kind of feels very kind of early dive watch, like an early dive watch marking, which I like. I mean, obviously it works with the aesthetic here. At 12, 6, and 9, you have an applied marker. Once again, also very 60s. And it looks, if you are familiar with the Squale line, specifically like the 2002, their big watch that has a lot of applied markers that feel the same way. At 3, you have a date window that speaks to the modern movement in here. There's top grade ETA 2824-2. Definitely the most modern thing in the watch is the movement, but I think that gives a lot of reliability and accuracy, so it's good to have. And you have the date function at 3. I think it works well with the watch. I'm glad they didn't put it off center or something like that. I think 3 fits. As with most Squales, you have a lot of logos going on. So you have the Von Buren Squale logo under 12. You might not be able to see it here, but above the Q, there's a little Von symbol that relates to the history of the brand. It was originally founded with the Von Buren family. And then below, just above 6 rather, you have this cool little cluster. So you have 25 atmospheres, 825 feet, the Squale shark logo, and then master and script, and they kind of fold in and bend with each other, and they has a very, very vintage look to it too. So we'll move on to the other colors now. The blue and silver dials have a sunburst effect to them that gives them a little bit more of a fancy feeling, but also a little bit, I think, even more of a vintage feeling. So this one has this really beautiful, rich royal blue dial. It's very much a color that speaks to that time period, in my opinion. I don't feel like you see too many new watches. The blue is kind of trending. It's a specific, very kind of ocean blue. I really like it. It works very well with the colors here. Especially now that you have the play off of that color and the tones in the bezel. There's just a lot more going on, and it's very summery. It's very fresh. I think it's a really nice tone. And then you have the effect of the sunburst here, which just adds a little bit of depth and kind of a metallic feeling to the dial. Otherwise, the layout is entirely the same as the black and the silver. Lastly, the silver dial, also sunburst, has this very, very light silver to it. It's even lighter than the steel. I think it's also a very nice color. Definitely, like the blue, kind of a brighter feeling to it. And it works very well with the bezel here, which I love the color. This might be actually my favorite bezel of the lot. It has this, really nice kind of milky silver here, and then kind of an interesting gray blue. It's just really beautiful, and the tones work together very nicely. Also, because it's light, they went with black text on it, black outlines instead of the white, which I like as well. All three also have the same handset, very simple fence post hands filled with loom. The loom on the dials is totally functional, quite bright actually. It's really good. Obviously the tritium on the bezel has died a long time ago, so you can't use that, but the dial itself glows very well. On the wrist, the Vintage Masters just wear beautifully. I mean, it reminds you of how nice a smaller size sport watch can be. It does not feel too small by any stretch of the imagination. And the 39 millimeter case sounds small, but I think it wears nice, and it's robust. And with the bezel, it kind of extends the dial out, so it has a lot of presence. It's not lacking in mass or substance. The lugs are nice and stout, so it just really fits and wears just very, very nicely, and I think it looks great. Obviously, it speaks to vintage watches. The 39 millimeters, actually that would have been a very large watch at the time, so it doesn't actually feel that old. It doesn't really feel too vintagey. I've tried 36 millimeter divers on; those start to get a little small. But here, it's just a modern, well-tuned sport watch with a very vintage look to it. And because most of it is newly made, the case, obviously the movement, the crown, everything except for the bezel, it's not like you have to be overly delicate with it. Obviously, I would try not to smack the bezel into anything, but it's not like you don't get the same kind of preciousness you get from wearing a watch that's actually from the 60s. So, that just makes it all the more versatile and wearable. And then the various colors are just great. This blue, unfortunately, the only one that's already sold out, at least at the time of the shooting. It's a very unique colorway. It's really kind of rich. I think it goes nicely with different outfit options. It's kind of a gray houndstooth shirt, and I think it looks really nice with that. Adds a little bit of color and pop. I'll look at the other ones after this, but the watches all come with 2 straps that I think are also really well chosen. This one in particular I really like. So this is kind of a vintage style rubber strap. It's 20 millimeters of the lugs, but it has notched lugs. So what that does is kind of continue the flow of the case down the bracelet or down the rubber, which then goes all the way to 16 at the buckle. So you have this really, really nice, just smooth flow down because it's a relatively thin rubber strap, both in thickness and in width. It wears very nice. It's not uncomfortable. Sometimes rubber straps, at least personally, I find they get a little they get a little uncomfortable through the day. They kind of make you sweat more. This also has these large, almost like rally holes, which just they add a very sporty look. It's just a beautiful strap. It really is. It has a very simple thumbnail buckle on here with the Squale shark logo on it, but otherwise, it's a great strap. And we'll look at one of the other ones now. Now looking at the silver dial version, obviously same great wearability. This one almost feels a touch more formal. I think there's a little bit more of a conservative color palette going on here, but it's still very sporty and very nice. I think all these watches you could easily wear to work or whatever. I mean, they're very well tuned, not aggressive looking watches. And then this is the other strap option that it comes with. So there's a very simple vintage style leather strap, straight cut, simple tacking by the lugs. You've seen this style before. It's popular. It looks nice. Definitely works very well with a watch this style. The leather here is this very thick, stiff leather. I feel like it's definitely like a vegetable tan leather, but it's all natural, and it will break in to be quite a comfortable strap. This one has a different buckle on it. I really like this buckle. It's a little bit more vintage feeling, like the machining on it is a little bit more soft, so it has kind of rounded edges and it's kind of fat on the side. It's just a cool little buckle that I think suits the watch a little bit better than the more standard thumbnail buckle that's on the rubber strap. But yeah, they all come with both though, so you get to try them both. Lastly, just taking a quick look at the black model. Definitely the most typical colorway, all black. But when I first received these, the other colors stood out as being much more exciting, much more unique. But as I've been wearing them, the simplicity, the cleanliness of the black dial and black bezel, it kind of is it might be the overall winner, and it's just kind of simple beauty. I don't know. It just works very, very nicely. I mean, it's much sportier looking, I think, because it's all black, but it's really nice. I've actually grown to really, really like this one, and obviously since it's all black, it works with everything color-wise as well. The Vintage Master isn't just a cool watch, it also comes with a really nice packaging and a set of kind of accompanying accessories to kind of build the story, as well as bring a little bit more of kind of an English flavor to it vis-a-vis Page&Cooper. So starting with this outer box, this might look like a very kind of standard outer box, but it's actually very intentional. You have this blue Von Squale Master stamp on here, but this is actually an archival style box that I believe is made by the same people that do the boxes for the museums there. So it's very intentional. These brass staples and everything. It was just all chosen, so it's not haphazard. Anyway, so you open that up. Inside you'll find a roll, and I'll get to that in a minute. And then under that you have a booklet about the watch. tells the whole story about it, shows ads. That's the original Squale master there from back in the day, and then there's the whole story going through here about the von Buren family, and it just everything. It's a great little accompaniment to the watch because it really goes through the process. Now looking at the accessories themselves, so like I said, you have these rolls. They come in different colors depending on which watch you get. These are made on Savile Row by tailor Timothy Everest, who I believe is a friend of Jonathan from Page&Cooper's. I don't even want to know what these would cost, like if you were to have these contracted. I mean, it's an extremely high-end tailor who's made suits for celebrities around the world. I think Mick Jagger is one that they've named. So, you know, this is a high-end piece of kit here. So you have this really nice kind of tan blue roll. Another one that's just kind of all blue, and then a dark blue one. Now opening it up, it has these really nice little pieces of hardware here. I haven't seen them, like these little gunmetal clips. You just pop those open and open up the roll. Now the idea with the roll was that, like, if you were a diver back in the early 60s, you would have like a kit with you, and this is a dive roll. It's not so much as a watch roll. So this would just be holding your kit, and this is likely what it would have been made out of a nice fabric like this. And then inside, so this isn't like a watch roll. You can't hold a bunch of watches. This is just things for this one watch. So here you have the watch itself, additional strap. And then you have a little pocket knife, which is made by the Joseph Rogers of Sheffield Company, a company that's been around for over 300 years, well-known English cutlery brand. And then you have a strap-changing tool, warranty card, and just general instructions for the watch. The other really cool accessory, obviously, other than the Timothy Everest roll, is this little pocket watch. It has Von Squale etched in one side and the Page&Cooper logo on the other. Open it up. You have a knife on one side, and then kind of your bottle opener screwdriver on the other. Once again, just a really cool little bit of kit that, you know, you can keep around. It's a really nice souvenir that obviously will always remind you of the watch, and it's just a cool little thing. To wrap up, the Squale X Page&Cooper Vintage Master limited edition watches are just kind of awesome. They're a lot of fun. They're very unique. I think it's a really, really cool project. I love the story behind it. Not just the finding of the bezels, but the whole story of the creation of them. How, you know, they're kind of a celebration of this this great brand that got a little bit forgotten. And I think, you know, we've been reviewing them since, you know, a couple of years ago, but they're only just now, I think, starting to get back into the mainstream as a brand that dive watch enthusiasts and just, you know, people looking for a great watch are going to get into. And, you know, Squale really does make a very good watch. This is obviously a kind of a different road because it's super limited. I mean, there's only 20 of each of these out there, so they're going to come and go pretty quickly. But as kind of a tribute to the brand, where it's coming from, where they're going, it's just really great, you know. And I think also the accessories they came with kind of broadened the project a bit. I love the dive roller it came with, as well as the little pocket knife. They just tell more of a story. They kind of bring a little bit of England into it to speak to the collaboration with Page&Cooper. You know, it's kind of a very different thing. This isn't just about a cool watch. It's kind of like an emotional factor to these that I don't think we get to see very often, and I really like that. It's just very different and a lot of fun. So yeah, you know, if you act quickly, one of these can be yours for a little over $1,800. You know, certainly not cheap, but I think you're getting a lot for what you're paying for here, and it's definitely a watch you're gonna keep around. So please read the full review on Worn&Wound. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.